Welcome back. While most Bronco fans are looking to Sunday's AFC title game, there are some lingering concerns after the injuries from last week's game. In addition to quarterback Bo Nix's broken ankle, wide receiver Pat Bryant suffered his second concussion in less than a month. But when it comes to a head injury like that, it is not always easy to know proper protocol or even what to look out for. So joining me right now to talk more about these important steps is CSU researcher Jaclyn Stephens. Jaclyn, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So you are one of the researchers who helped put together an easy to follow guide about concussions. Tell us about that guide.
Yeah, so this team is part of the American Congress of Rehab Medicine. We make up a couple different task forces, the Mild Traumatic Brain Injury Task Force and the Athlete Development Sports Rehab Task Force. And our intention with this concussion recognition guide was to really support parents and coaches in being able to recognize when concussions happen and respond appropriately.
You know, it's not just professional sporting events, it's also kids who are probably in high school and middle school. What are some of the key signs of concussion that coaches as well as parents need to look out for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what you're really looking for, some signs that you might see in the athlete if they've lost consciousness, if they're showing signs of memory loss, like if they don't know where they are, or they can't remember their coach's name, if you see things like confusion or balance problems, if they look particularly clumsy, those are some pretty good signs that a concussion has happened. You can also ask the athlete how they're feeling, and you can see if they have things like headache, if they're starting to feel nauseous, if they have blurred vision. These are all really key signs of a concussion. And if any of those signs or symptoms are present, it's really important to remove the athlete from play.
Yeah, not only removing the athlete, but I'm sure there's an action of treatment. What is that type of treatment? What does it look like after for someone who suffered a concussion?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing to do is remove them from play and then get them evaluated by a concussion specialist. And then if the concussion specialist determines that a concussion has happened, there's some pretty standardized and well-established steps for what comes next. So the first 24 to 48 hours are really critical for removing them from, they need to have relative rest. So they need to have some cognitive rest and physical rest. They can walk around, they can shower, they can do those kinds of things, but they need to stay off screens, including their phones, for the first 48 hours. And then what has shifted recently in our understanding of concussion recovery is we don't actually ask them to rest much longer beyond that. So after the first 48 hours, that's when they can actually start engaging in some light exercise again. And we try to have that exercise be at a sub-symptom threshold. So what that means is, if you've got a little bit of a headache and that headache stays just at that little bit level, that's fine. But if it gets worse, then we need to scale back on that exercise. But we've actually started introducing exercise protocols as a way to help facilitate recovery from concussion. For a long time, we kind of cocooned athletes and we didn't encourage them to exercise. And now the protocol has shifted to a more active recovery protocol.
Jaclyn, I've seen more and more professional athletes wear the helmets where it's padded. Is that one of the best ways that athletes can prevent a concussion, or what are other ways that they can prevent this?
Yeah, I think, helmet technology has come a long ways. I think helmets are there to protect against accidental injury. We want to make sure that we're not using helmets as weapons, because I think that's when we can actually see more head trauma. Absolutely, when you're biking or skiing or snowboarding, things that folks in Colorado do a lot, that helmet is there to protect you in case you fall. And then in other sports where we wear helmets, again, it's supposed to protect against falls and accidental hits. And we want to try to avoid head-to-head contact. So there's a move in football to try to do more body style tackling. That conversation comes up a lot. But really, wearing protective gear is important. Making sure that we're not using our heads as weapons is important. And really just being mindful of when an injury happens to remove the athlete from play is super important for long-term health, because unfortunately, concussions can often create more concussions down the road. So we want to be really careful and intentional with our preventative efforts. And then if a concussion does happen, making sure that we remove them and get them into that treatment protocol that I referenced earlier.
Yeah, some really good advice, Jaclyn. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share to our viewers, especially when it comes to concussions or anything involving sports, especially for, like you mentioned, in Colorado, we do a lot of the biking, the walking, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, sports and exercise are so good for you. And so we don't ever want to come across as alarmists. The benefits of sports are very clearly documented. And so we don't want people to avoid doing things where they might accidentally get a head injury. I think just being really careful and cautious about what we're doing, wearing the protective equipment when it's there and needed. And when a concussion happens, the best piece of advice, and this is what we put in our concussion tool, is if in doubt, sit them out. So most of the time, the consequences of removing an athlete are very, very minimal, but the consequences of keeping them in can be catastrophic. So we really want to make sure that we are careful about removing athletes.
Jaclyn, thank you so much for joining us on 9 News Mornings.